Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another second, I was gonna say stimulus, but welcome back to a brand new video. So in today's video, I want to basically take a little bit of a break and talk a little bit about this incredible phenomenon that's going on right now that you guys might have heard of, which is about the GameStop squeeze. Now, if you guys are kind of confused about what this is, hopefully you guys won't be. And I think that even if you guys are not into investing, hopefully you guys are at least into making money of some kind, because I think most of us, especially after last year, long story short is that there is this massive wave that's going on right now where there are some people that are getting incredibly rich right now in the market over the last couple of days by taking part in this squeeze that's kind of going on. It's going to sound a little bit confusing and there might be some stock market terminology, but the long story short is that there's some people that are getting incredibly rich over the last week, and even a story about how one man, technically actually there's many stories, but one person in particular who basically managed to turn about $50,000 into over $11 million within a single year. And the crazy thing is that he still has his money inside of the market. So that 11 million that we're talking about is still potentially even more. And I think that he actually already sold several million. So there is now several millions of dollars locked inside. And he is probably just one of a couple stories. He's definitely the most famous one, the most famous story of all of them. But there's definitely a lot of people that are going through this. And I know there's probably a lot of confusion about what's going on, so I really just kind of want to maybe take a break and talk a little bit about this. Now, obviously, because this is really a new kind of subject for me that I just felt incredibly passionate and excited to be able to tell you guys, because after all, it is really breaking news, and I am also admittedly a part of this, so there is maybe, I guess, something to share right there. Okay, so we're gonna get right to talking about real fast. Before we begin, consider smashing the like button to help support this channel. Feel free to subscribe for other videos. We are generally a stimulus and unemployment channel, so just keep that in note. However, we are planning to maybe make some transition into finance videos, so if you guys can bear through it, hopefully there is something to offer. So consider subscribing and feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything at all, especially maybe your thoughts at the very end about what's basically been going on, because it really is huge right now. So inside of the stock market, there is basically something called a short. If you're not familiar what that is that there's something in the stock market called a buy. That's basically like what you would think. You know, if you think a stock is going to go up, then you can buy the stock and then maybe resell in the future for a higher price. And this is with a lot of things, even in real life. You probably do this, maybe you could do this with like a house, you can do this with like maybe a limited edition, a lot of Supreme products, sneakers, there's anything that's very limited edition. Sometimes the prices generally spike. Now, there's also something that's the opposite, which is called a short. A short, what it is that when you think a stock or a certain something is going to decrease in value, then what you can do is that you can basically take out a loan of some kind to buy a certain something. So let's say the phone. Let's say a phone, right? So you can basically borrow a certain amount of money to buy a phone, and let's say the phone cost $2,000, and then immediately sell the phone. So now you get to keep $2,000, but now you have to return back the phone later into the future, but hope that maybe the price of the phone by then is going to dip down to only $100, and then you can basically just buy back the phone and sell it. Basically, the idea is that you're selling something that you don't necessarily own to kind of get the money, but you have to buy that something again to return that particular product. It's very similar to like if you take out a loan for anything really, like a car loan, a house loan, a college loan, except imagine if the thing that you have to pay back is not the actual money, but it's the actual product. You have to pay back the actual share. So this is actually wonderful if you think about it, because if it really does crash, especially because GameStop was a company that I know a lot of people figured was probably going to be one of the next companies to file for bankruptcy. And I think that for any kind of gamer that's out there, and I'm a little bit biased to this, is that GameStop really is a company that really has a special place, I think at least, in a lot of people's heart. So a lot of people, though, sadly, were kind of betting that it was going to go down. And in theory, it would work until it doesn't. And in theory, it would work until the actual price of the stock spikes and actually goes upwards, especially if they short too many. So the long story short is that there is one investor, and let's just say that he's on a lot of forums, but specifically on a Reddit forum right now called Wallstreetbets. It's a very famous forum that people love to talk about stocks and trading. He basically made multiple posts over the course of across the last like 1 year of some kind, talking about how he saw so much opportunity in this stock one day that even though maybe most people don't believe in this stock, he did. At least he certainly believes that he could potentially pull the short squeeze story. And so he has been buying the stock when everyone was basically doubting him, saying all sorts of things about him, but he stayed true and kind of believed in what he was doing. And now, I think the beauty to the stock market is that everyone can debate, they can argue, they can call you names, they can, say great or not so great things. But I think the beauty about the stock market is that even though it's scary because we don't know what happens in the future, the beauty about it is that we can at least look at the present, and in the present, the numbers never lie. And the reward, it is probably one of the most rewarding things you can ever really do in life if you win. That of course. But so the story, what is going on right now is that what's going on is that there is a massive pool community of people, and I'm admittedly part of it, is that they're trying to buy up every last share. So maybe if you go back to the phone example, imagine if you knew there's a group of people that have to buy phones to return them, but now you have another group of people that's buying every last phone that's inside of the market. So now they're holding on to that phone. Actually, really similar to what happened with the pandemic with masks. There were a lot of people that were buying every last mask, tissue paper, sanitation, alcohol, wipes of some kind, and just holding on to it. But the story is that when you hold on to it, you can potentially force people to now pay anything. Now, if you're someone that doesn't have a lot of money, then you really can only lose what you have. You know what I mean? But when you do this to a billionaire hedge fund, so for example, in this case, Melvin Capital, which is basically the hedge fund that probably bought a sheer amount of shares, or basically shorted a sheer amount of shares that they now have to pay back, you are now potentially trying to screw someone that actually does have a lot of money to take. How much money? Something in, let's just say, the billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it's not just even this stock, because keep in mind is that it can potentially hit into their other assets, because they may have to sell other things to be able to buy this stock and return it back. So what is going on now is that it's basically an infinity loop. And I should make another video. Definitely subscribe if you haven't done so already, talking a little bit more about a short squeeze. But the idea is that with so many people trying to buy into this stock, it's now spiking the stock even higher and higher and higher. In fact, the sad thing is that there's a lot of people inside, or a lot of brokerages that are actually trying to cheat the system right now, and they're trying to pause payments or pause transactions. We don't know how this is going to play out. I actually am pretty sure it's illegal, and there's a lot of celebrities that have actually voiced in support of us. So by us, we're talking about the regular people that are the opposite side of the hedge fund company, unless you happen to work for a hedge fund. Sorry. But even then, you guys hopefully own your own stocks of some kind. But so the idea is that it's really driving the price up higher and higher and higher to some number that you can basically call your price. Think a little bit exactly like what happened with the pandemic. So I know a very popular story that a lot of people have been using to describe this is a little bit like musical chairs. So imagine if you're playing a game of musical chairs, and there's, let's say, 100 people inside of a room, and there's 90 chairs, right? So obviously 10 people have to be out. Now, imagine what would happen if, let's say, you still have 90 shares, or 90 chairs/shares in the market, because I'm kind of using as a comparison, so funny enough they rhyme. But imagine if you still had 90 chairs inside of a circle, and then all of a sudden, you basically have about 100 people, more people now, that enter into a room. So now you have 200 people that are now fighting for 90 chairs. But what ends up happening is that now every last chair is incredibly scarce. And now everyone's trying to fight over getting one of the very last remaining chairs, because there's only so many of them. And that's what's basically driving up the price, spiking it to some number who knows where it can go. The biggest risk right now is that there could potentially be a lot of market manipulation, and it's actually already technically going on now, so we don't know how things are paying out. It technically is illegal, but they may just be doing it anyway, so that's what we're really kind of on the edge watching right now. So the story, right, is that one person, and then the few very few early comers managed to basically buy up a whole ton of these chairs, or shares for some very ridiculous price. And if you want to know how ridiculous, something, let's just say in the single digits, something in like the single digit dollar amount, let's say $5, $6, $7. Imagine just buying a whole bunch of that for pennies during the time period where nobody wanted it, and then suddenly you now enter an era where every single person wanted it, and now they're trying to fight over buying every last share. And now you're talking about a person that basically bought a whole bunch of different pennies that have basically now become worth like Benjamins of some kind, and now he's basically selling a whole bunch, especially when you talk about it in call options. That's another terminology we'll have to talk about. Subscribe for more if you're interested in that. But what this does is that now he has basically bought a whole bunch of pennies and can now sell it for Benjamins, and that is the story to how he basically parlayed about $50,000 into something about $11 million, basically totally beating the system. And this is like over the course of a year, but with most of this money over the course of this last like 1 to 2 weeks. So that's the really insane thing. Now, there technically are also some fundamentals about GameStop, but that's probably a video for another day where we can talk about it. I kind of just really wanted to share with you guys a little bit about the story, about what's going on. Now, in terms of my personal opinion about whether or not you guys should buy, I would probably say if you are new, you're going to see a lot of price action, especially in this time period. Probably don't buy right now. However, with that being said, I think that if you are someone who has actually had maybe several years in the market, or if you are someone that maybe has a little bit of casino money on the side, that you're willing to kind of gamble, but be prepared to kind of just walk out with an empty pot, feel free to go for it. And I think that if you're going to do this, don't necessarily do it for the money, but do it a lot more for the experience, because I think there's a little bit of an adrenaline rush thing that's going on there. It is also a very good cause, because if you are someone that believes that there is a very unequal distribution of wealth right now, where 90% of the money that exists in our country goes to the top 10% of the people, this is one of the potential historical moments where there could be a massive wealth transfer of just billions of dollars now being distributed to just people like us, potentially. So it is also for a very good cause. But that's really what I wanted to share in today's video. So hopefully you guys found something insightful about that. Feel free to maybe comment down what you guys think about this story. Again, I know this is a probably particularly new kind of fresh experiment video for me to kind of try out, so it probably won't be as popular, but I kind of just really felt passionate and inclined. I mean, when you're turning $50 million to $50,000 to $11 million and counting, this is really, really big. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification button. Remember to smash the like button. And hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, hope to see you guys again.